So really, when it all boils down to it, and you take away the talking points of the mainstream media, it's really a two-horse race right now. It's Romney and Paul. That's who it is. So don't get so discouraged out there because of this. Even with all the bamboozling, he still pulled. He was only 3 percentage points behind, even with all that.
Everybody they've thrown in his way has fallen by the wayside.
Absolutely, and
And
this is just the
Santorum
next
is just
guy.
the next in the line. Remember, Bachmann won the straw poll for Iowa a couple months ago.
Yeah, and she just dropped out today.
Yeah, exactly. She lost horribly. So goes to
Yeah,
show you how fast things can change. And yet Dr. Paul still stays, even keel.
as consistent can be.
Well, when you tell the truth, it's not hard to remember it and, say it over and over again. It's hard to remember lies.
Yeah, you don't have to remember which lie you spewed.
Yeah, and I'm sure, being on the road and doing all this campaigning does take its toll on them. So no wonder they, all the liars, the establishment wannabes, I guess you could say, they always end up screwing up and saying having a gaffe, as they call it. But it's usually because they really don't care. They're not really paying attention. They have handlers that help them with that. And, I only think Dr. Paul lost, Joe, because of vote fraud. I think they
I
brought
do too,
people in from out because there's no way. I mean, he was,
hands down.
yeah, on Twitter, on every other medium that they used, on Drudge, every other medium that they used to poll the Iowa, he won hands down.
Right. Well, let me throw this in there too. This is the Daily Caller. John Garver. John Garver is the 19-year-old nephew of Rick Santorum, and he went and wrote a short article about his uncle, and it's called "The Trouble with My Uncle Rick Santorum." And I want to read it real quick. It's only a couple paragraphs. It says, if you want another big government politician who supports the status quo to run our country, you should vote for my uncle, Rick Santorum. America is based on a strong belief in individual liberty. My uncle's interventionist policies, both domestic and foreign, stem from his irrational fear of freedom not working. It is not the government's job to dictate to individuals how they must live. The Constitution was designed to protect individual liberty. My Uncle Rick cannot fathom a society in which people cooperate and work with each other freely. When Republicans were spending so much money under President Bush, my uncle was right there along with them as a senator. The reason we have so much debt is not only because of Democrats, but because of big spending Republicans like my Uncle Rick. It is because of this inability of status quo politicians to recognize the importance of our individual liberties that I have been drawn to Ron Paul. Unlike my uncle, he does not believe that the American people are incapable of forming decisions. He believes that an individual is more powerful than any group, a notion our founding fathers also believed in. Another important reason I support Ron Paul is his position on foreign policy. He is the only candidate willing to bring our troops home, not only from the Middle East, but from all around the world. Ron Paul seems to be the only candidate trying to win the election for a reason other than simply winning the election. This year, I'll vote for an honest change in our government. I'll vote for real hope. I'll vote for a real leader. This year, I will vote for Ron Paul. That's John Garver, 19-year-old student of University of Pittsburgh and a strong supporter of Ron Paul despite his love for family member Rick Santorum. What does that tell you when his own family members like Ron Paul? Give me a break.
Yeah, where's the mainstream media on that one, Joe? Where's
Yeah.
CNN and all them? Oh, Santorum, he's so great. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, you should Google Santorum.
Go and Google just the last name, Santorum, and see what you find. And write back to us.
Yeah,
Write back to us.
info at federaljack.com.
Info
Info
at Jack.
or Joe, what's yours?
The Freedom Link at CenturyLink.net.
Let us know what you think.
That's important. I mean, I really, really would love to know what you find when you just Google the last name Santorum. Do you want somebody with the last name of Santorum sitting in the office of the President of the United States.
That he's a puppet. He's a big pharma puppet
Yes, he is.
in all honesty, right? Didn't you looked up his record and it was like, you know,
He doubled the size of the Department of Education.
oh well,
He voted.
there you go.
Yeah,
There's a problem right off the bat.
yeah. He was like Mr. Oh, don't even get me started. And every war. Oh yeah, let's go, baby. Ricky Santorum is in there. But folks, 2006, he lost his election by 18%. He got slaughtered because of his standpoint on things. Slaughtered. So I think it's a flash in the pan. I think he just happened to be a means to an end to influence the
I think he was
results.
used to destroy Paul's showing in Iowa.
Yes,
I don't
I
think
agree.
Santorum's actually going to pose any real threat
No,
as a real candidate at all.
no, and it's still a two-horse race. It's Paul and Romney. That's it. And Romney cannot stack up against Paul. That's why it's so important for everybody to get out there and do whatever you can to help get Ron Paul support, to gather support in your local area, and to make a difference. Because we can beat this. We can beat this, but it's going to take a lot of effort from each and every one of you.
Well, Joe, I think the thing that everybody can take away from this quick podcast tonight is that we really need to pay attention to these caucuses, and we need to have our eyes open. If Dr. Paul's message has any chance of continuing on and getting pushed out there, which I believe it does, it's going to be from a grassroots level. It's going to be people getting up and doing it, which is why he's so popular and why he surges, because there's so many people behind him. And like I said earlier, they keep throwing all these losers in front of him and they just get mowed down. So I really don't think Santorum is in any way, shape, or form a threat to Dr. Paul for the nomination. I think it's really, like you said, him and Mitt Romney, and that's it. I don't think there's
No, you're right.
anybody else.
And we need testimony. We need testimony from the ground. People that are there when these caucuses and these polls and the results come about. We need to hear from people. So please, send us emails. Send it to the Intel Hub. Send it to FreedomLink. My email address is thefreedomlink@centurylink.net. Send it to Popeye at federaljack.com. And get this information to us so that we can relay it out to everybody else.
I agree. Keep your eyes open. Have your camera phones or a camera ready. Keep your eyes out. Report anything suspicious. Get with people. Form a little network. Keep an eye out, because obviously they did something. They committed some sort of fraud to pull off what they did in Iowa. Because if not,
Amen.
Santorum would have been buried. And I have a feeling some of who knows, maybe some votes that went to Santorum could have been Dr. Paul's votes. You never know how they could have pulled it off. I mean, personally, I think they probably bust in, like you said. You made a good point. They probably bust in people from out of state, especially since there was no ID check, so it didn't matter. You just rolled up, and as long as they were rolling in and voting for Santorum, it didn't matter. So how many thousands of votes did he get that were from people that didn't even belong in Iowa?
God only knows, man. God only knows. So, folks, stay tuned. We'll be having regular podcasts here.
Right here on the Intel Hub News Brief, a podcast that's going to be coming at you a few times a week, and it's going to be available coming to you from the guys from the Intel Hub, Joseph from Freedomlink Radio, myself, Popeye of federaljack.com, and Orion Talk Radio. And the Orion Talk Radio network itself is supporting this behind the scenes and doing things to help out. So we have to give a big shout out to Jimmy X over there. You can go check out Orion Talk Radio at oriontalkradio.com, the intelhub.com,